Hello everybody, welcome to the Tech Check on the Rocky Mountain Altitude Powerplay. Let's dive in. So Rocky recently released the updated Altitude Powerplay, and today we're gonna go over some of the features on this machine, and you don't have to wait very long to see our first impressions on it, or I should say some detailed impressions, because our e-bike shootout is dropping very soon. And if you're watching this after it's already released, we'll link that down below. This is a 160/170 EMTB powered by the new updated Dyname S4 Pro drive unit. This comes as a dual 29-inch wheeled bike. However, you can run it as a mixed wheel. The small size bike does come with a 27.5 already installed. And like all of Rocky Mountain's Powerplay e-bikes, it comes with CushCore installed, something that kept these rims intact for our e-bike shootout. So first things first, it's an e-bike. Let's dive into the e-things. You guys have given feedback, and that's what you want to hear first. We listen, we pay attention. So moving into the Dyname S4 Pro drive unit, depending on your region, it can either have 1,000 or 750 watts of peak power. The torque is 108 Newton meters, and it does feature a couple of other updates. The weight of the drive unit remains the same at 3,200 grams. However, the spider assembly goes from a Sprag clutch to a rocket clutch, and they've changed the charger interface, and they also have a 2 amp hour or 4 amp hour charger depending on which model you select. By the way, there are 3 models available, 1 in carbon fiber and 2 in aluminum. Internally, you will find a 720 watt hour battery, and if that's not enough for you, you can get their 314 watt hour range extender. And keeping in theme with the battery, Rocky have given this bike a new battery mounting method. It is securely mounted on 2 points, making this bike a lot quieter and preventing any battery rattle from happening. And along with making the battery more secure, it is easily removable and drops out right in front of the motor. Rocky have also added a new aluminum heat sink to help better manage the heat buildup during extended climbs when you're ripping this thing up the hill in ludicrous mode. Rocky Mountain and their Dyname philosophy are unique from other units and have always offered a bit of a different feel. When it comes to tuning and modifying the power, you do not need to use an app. Instead, Rocky Mountain have relied on their handlebar mounted control switch as well as the Jumbotron to navigate. Now you will have one factory mode as well as a Tune A or Tune B. Now in each of those profiles, you can adjust the boost level, which is how the motor responds to rider input on the pedals, as well as assistant power, which is the amount of power available from the drive unit itself. One could be set up, for example, to be more of an eco-friendly battery range extending ride, or something that inspires more physical effort and energy to give you a more unassisted ride feel, whereas the other option could be a more assisted ride for days that you are low on energy or looking to get the most miles in a short amount of time. Before we dive into frame features and geo, let's touch on the suspension platform employed on the Altitude Powerplay. Rocky have given the new Altitude the LC2R suspension platform, which is low center, counter-rotating suspension. And the goal here was to change a little bit of the feel, but not so much in a negative way. We're actually quite pleased with how this bike rides. It is a little bit different, but I think it's something that a lot of riders will appreciate and enjoy. Rocky said that they wanted to blend a tune that was both efficient and supportive, but maintained the supple and quiet suspension performance that riders have grown to appreciate out of their Powerplay e-bikes. In short, that means that the bike has a more supportive feel and a little bit less ramp up at the end of the stroke, and also combined with the stiffer, shorter rear links, makes a bike that feels smooth and supple like all the other generation EMTBs from Rocky Mountain, but just gives a little bit more to push off of if you're a playful rider. Our crew have opted to get the size large for our test. Most of our riders are between 5'11" and 6'2", and this offered a great blend of handling and stability that we liked. Depending on the position of our headset cup, the frame will have a reach between 475 millimeters to 483 millimeters. So this frame has 5 millimeters of adjustment on that headset cup, which is something that we absolutely love that bikes offer and is a big thumbs up. There's also a Ride 4 chip, which Rocky Mountain fans will already know and appreciate, which gives you 4 different configurations to modify the bike's feel further and suspension feel to an extent. In the nominal setting, the bike has a 638 mil stack It has a 1,285 millimeter wheelbase. The bottom bracket drop is 25 millimeters. It has a head tube angle of 63.5 degrees and a seat tube angle of 77.5 degrees. Rocky Mountain will be offering 3 models of this bike available. We have the top of the line spec and have been quite pleased so far with the performance of this bike. Of course, this is a tech check, which means we made this video with the help and support of Rocky Mountain, so you'll have to stay tuned for our official long-term review on it. This bike will be going to our full power e-bike shootout, so stay tuned for that. Initial impressions, what do we think? How does the bike feel? We have always been fans of Rocky Mountain's EMTBs. Can't always say that that's been the case on their non-e-bikes, at least me personally. I haven't always got along with their suspension platform and the way they feel, but their EMTBs, I've always appreciated how supple, soft, and smooth they feel, the traction that they generate, the way that they feel in the corners, and that remains the same on this bike. I'm quite happy with the suspension, as have been the other guys who've ridden this bike. The weight on it, you know, it's not the lightest bike out there. I would say it does a pretty decent job of hiding its weight. It certainly isn't the sprightliest and liveliest bike. I think a lot of that does have to do with the suspension platform being just so smooth and buttery. The flip side is that traction both up and down is really impressive. I like the Ride 4 customization ability that you have. I like the headset cup ability that comes with the bike, and that you can make those changes to really drastically modify how the bike feels and performs for you. The cush core installation, right? If you want to drop weight, that is something that would absolutely help bring the bike alive a little bit more. The flip side is that the composed and calm feel you get out of those cush cores, the quiet, thuddy ride, is something that a lot of riders I think will appreciate and expect. Also, reduction of damage to your wheels is always a plus on a big long travel e-bike. Moving into drive unit power. Now the Dyname unit, it does deliver some awesome power. And it's a really cool kind of like tractor sort of a feel. Like just the torque and the grunt of this is, I would say, one of the most torquey drive units when you're really wanting to mash and put power into the pedals. And the way I would try to describe it is like the harder that you push into the pedal, the more rewarding the experience is. Whereas some drive units, it's like if you just barely touch it, it'll just zip away from you and zoom off. The Rocky doesn't do that. That Dyname system is built to take a little bit more input. And of course, you can adjust that. You can make it so it's a little bit softer and lighter to react. But where this bike I think really shines is in the technical climbing, or for riders who like feeling pushed. Overall, the Geo, the handling, suspension, make this a pretty solid bike all around, and one that our crew is very excited to put up to the rest in our e-bike shootout. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thanks to Rocky Mountain for getting this bike out to us. Stay tuned for the e-bike shootout, and we'll see you guys out on the trails.